As a graduating high school senior, I felt as if I had lived my life and I was ready to die. My first semester of college, I wrote in my journal, "I feel as if I am a pawn being moved involuntarily by time." I felt forced to leave the comfort of high school, not quite ready for my next step. But even more significantly than that, I felt content. I wasn't focused on my regrets. I felt satisfied with my life. In Chayei Sarah, we read about Abraham's death. Genesis chapter 25, verse 8 says, "And Abraham breathed his last, dying at a good ripe age, old and content. Vayigva vayamot Avraham b'seva tova, zaken v'saveya." What was it about Abraham's life that allowed him to die saveya, satisfied? And what can we learn from Abraham about what it takes to look back on an entire experience or even our whole lifetime and not focus on our regrets, imperfections, or dissatisfactions? I believe that there are three components to an answer. First, Abraham had a sense of purpose. We recently read about Abraham's call in Parshat Lech Lecha. Commentators and biblical scholars alike have sought to understand why God charged Abraham with such a huge responsibility, seemingly out of nowhere. Maimonides posits that even from a young age, Abraham knew he had a purpose. In his Mishneh Torah, Maimonides explains how Abraham became a spokesperson for monotheism. As soon as Abraham was weaned, even in his infancy, he began to muse night and day, wondering, how is it possible that the world should be continuously in motion without one to guide it? And such were his ponderings until he knew that there was one God. This text brings to mind a sweet image of baby Avram, the philosopher. It teaches us that even from a young age, Abraham knew what he was meant to do. Having a purpose is not only important on our better days. Viktor Frankl was one of the first psychologists to propose that having a high-level belief system, such as a purpose in life, enables people to endure life's hardships. An article published in 2009 in the Journal of Positive Psychology examined the connection between purpose and life satisfaction among adolescents, emerging adults, and adults. Results of this study revealed that having identified a purpose was associated with greater life satisfaction at all of those three stages of life. Interestingly, the study also found that searching for a purpose was only associated with increased life satisfaction during adolescence and emerging adulthood. Moreover, the study stated that a strong sense of purpose underscores moral action and civic engagement. We can understand from this research that both seeking and finding our purpose not only brings us contentment, it helps us make a difference in our world. The second factor that allowed Abraham to die saveya was humility. When Abraham argued with God about the destruction of Sodom and Amorah, he acknowledged, "Here I venture to speak to my God, and I am but dust and ashes. Ve'anochi afar va'efer." Rashi contextualizes Abraham's argument by referencing the midrashic work Genesis Rabbah. Abraham would long ago have been reduced to dust by the kings and to ashes by Nimrod had it not been for God's mercy. Lulei rachamecha asher amadu li. But Seforno had a different take on Abraham's expression, that Abraham was unable to comprehend God's reason for destroying the cities. According to Seforno, one definition of humility is the ability to admit what we don't know or understand. Being humble doesn't mean to stop fighting for what we believe in, but it does mean to own our limitations. The Talmud provides us with a second definition of humility. In Tractate Sanhedrin, we learn that the people of Sodom became haughty due to the excessive goodness that God bestowed upon them. When a poor person would come to Sodom, each and every resident would give him a coin, and the name of the giver was written on each coin. and they would not give or sell the poor person bread, so that he could not spend the money, and he would die of hunger. And when he would die, each and every person would come and take back his coin. This type of arrogance that the Talmud depicts is cruel and deeply troubling. It paints Sodom as a community focused only on appearances. Individuals in Sodom had no compassion for the vulnerable, and they left the poor to die. We understand from this depiction that humility is the opposite of entitlement. God forbid we fall into the trap of thinking that we deserve all the goodness in the world, even at the expense of others. Humility is not a disposition. It is a skill that can be developed. When we cultivate our curiosity and our gratitude, we will become more humble. In addition to purpose and humility, the third quality that contributed to Abraham's satisfaction at the end of his life is that he cared about people. He had meaningful relationships and confidence in the future. Close, meaningful relationships are not easy to maintain, and Abraham was often pulled in different directions, having to choose whom in his life to prioritize: Sarah, Hagar, Isaac, Ishmael, Lot, or God. It's easy to see that Abraham's relationships were messy and complicated. And it's remarkable that by the end of Abraham's life, he felt content, given that there was so much turmoil in his family. I imagine that the biggest regrets of Abraham's life were in this realm of personal relationships. Putting Sarah in danger by having her pose as his sister, not only once, but twice, sending away Hagar and Ishmael, and the eagerness with which Abraham set out to sacrifice Isaac in the famous Akedah story. Dr. Carol Brees, an active researcher in the area of family and relationship communication, said, "The reality of relationships is they're messy. There's crap we'd never publish. There's stuff we don't want to talk about." At the end of her TED Talk, Brees charged her audience to begin talking a lot more about the messes. Because when we pretend that gorgeous on the outside is the entire picture, we do every other relationship that comes after ours one huge disservice. While I wouldn't suggest emulating Abraham's relationships, Abraham is certainly a model for Jewish continuity. When he died, Abraham had hope for the future. The commentator Radak explained that Abraham's death at a good ripe age, Seva Tova, meant that Abraham died having seen his children and grandchildren. Shera'a lo banim uvnei banim. We can expand Radak's comment to include all of the children in our communities. By the time Abraham died, he believed that the world would become a better place for future generations. Having a purpose, cultivating humility, embracing messy relationships, and having hope for the future all push against our cultural norms. We live in a time when it is becoming increasingly uncommon for people to pursue only one professional path. Even when we feel that we have found our purpose, we can find ourselves pulled in many different directions at once. We are experts at humble bragging and portraying our relationships as being perfect. And we only have to listen, watch, or read the news to become completely discouraged about the future. But Judaism is countercultural. We can learn from Abraham to search for and to connect to our purpose, to grow in humility, to invest more time and care in our most important relationships, even when they get messy, and to hold on tightly to hope for the future, especially when these aspirations feel most difficult. Satisfaction can be a lofty goal. American journalist and author Catherine Schultz said, "If we have hopes and dreams and we want to do our best, and if we love people and we don't want to hurt them or lose them, we should feel pain when things go wrong. The point isn't to live without any regrets. The point is to not hate ourselves for having them. Regret doesn't remind us that we did badly. It reminds us that we know we can do better. Just as I felt like I was a pawn, forced to leave high school 15 years ago, I feel a palpable sense of loss that my time as a student at JTS, which has spanned most of those 15 years, is coming to a close. We all experience coming to the end of something, a job, a relationship, or any other chapter of our lives. Being satisfied with our experiences doesn't mean that we don't have regrets. It doesn't even mean that we always did our best. It means that we challenged ourselves to grow and that we will continue to do so going forward. Please rise. Yikada vikada shemei rabba, ve'ama divra kirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shemei rabba mevarach le'alam l'amei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitzromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudshah b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alama v'imru amen. Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan ve'al Tamidei Hon ve'al kol Tamidei Hon ve'al kol man de'asekin be'oraita di ve'atra hadein v'di v'chol atar ve'atar yehi lehon ulchon shlama rabba china v'chista v'rachamin v'chayin arichin umzona revicha ufor kana min kodam avuhon di v'shmaya v'imru amen yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen Oseh shalom b'imromav hu berachamav ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen